welcome to another edition of Freetime Interview. I'm your host, Fletch, as usual, and we're finally back here for the 2023-2024 winter season, and I am stoked to have this guest on here, a man who not only has now a history with XCW and has been a part of XCW here for the past few months, but has a lot of experience outside of XCW that he can share with us today here on the show. I have none other than the headline, Aaron Blaze. You know, first thing I wanted to say is people have been out there making logos for you, but they're not even calling you the right thing. You're the headliner now?
I don't know.
Okay, all right.
Just a typo, I guess.
But it's great to have you on the show. Like I said, a lot of things that we could talk about here on the show. So you're the first episode up on this new season. So this is really exciting to get kicked off this year. All right. So how this goes? No playing gimmicks.
Yeah.
You're just answering the questions as we go here. So right off the bat, obviously you watched a lot of XCW prior to your debut here in the company.
Yes.
So who would you say is your favorite superstar to watch?
Favorite superstar to watch? I'd have to say Corey Lee, because before I really dived deep into XCW for as much as I did, I've heard his name come up a lot. I've seen a decent chunk of his work. I'd have to say Corey Lee.
Yeah, Corey Lee's a common answer in this. He's a highlight reel in himself, and he's made such a good career out of his time here at XCW. He's just such a common answer. And obviously you had the chance to work with him outside of XCW too. Him and I went to UWA. You worked with him there, and then obviously CBW. So Corey Lee is definitely a highlight reel, and he is definitely someone to watch. Now on the flip side of that, you've worked with Corey Lee, like I said. So who is your favorite XCW superstar so far that you like to work with?
Well, fun fact, Corey Lee was actually technically my first match in XCW.
Mm-hmm.
I've had many encounters with Corey Lee, but he is not my favorite person that I've worked with so far. I'm gonna have to say Chris Jones. It was very unexpected that I got the opportunity to work with him.
Yeah.
And I'm very appreciative for that. And I think the match I had with him at Halloween Harvest, I believe, this past year, was one of the best matches of not just my XCW career, but my entire wrestling career in general.
Yeah, if anybody knows what it's like to work in a ring with Chris Jones, it's me. I think we've had hundreds of matches together, so literally. So I totally understand the sentiment there. Now, of course, like we talked about, you do your studies, you watch tape back, you're just a sponge for this game. So to this point, what is your favorite XCW show that you have seen? Like, is there a show that stands out that you're just like, from top to bottom, that was it?
Summer Mania. It's the biggest show of the year.
This past year?
Yeah.
Summer Mania 18?
I enjoyed it. I think it is the show that really hooked me on me making the decision to become a part of this roster. Just the love and reaction that I got from everyone that was there, behind the curtain and out in the audience. It was just a memorable moment that I'll carry for the rest of my life. So. Yeah,
and I feel like Summer Mania, it's not a knock on all the other companies out there, but I feel like when XCW does Summer Mania, that it's above and beyond.
Absolutely.
The production, the lighting, the storytelling, the editing, everything that goes into what Summer Mania is, it's a step above everybody else. And like I said, it's not a knock. It's just I enjoy high level production. I can sometimes be a perfectionist, and I wanted that big show feel, and I feel like it's almost become a thing now where it's not just SummerMania that's a big time feel. Like there's so many other shows that has come into itself as like these juggernaut shows, encounters. Hit the Lights was even felt like a huge event. So the biggest part, though, the hardest part is trying to top yourself every year. That becomes a big issue. Now, this is going to be a pretty interesting question I think people are going to enjoy, and that's obviously the first time that you were really on XCW's main stage was at SummerMania. Yeah. So how did you get your start in XCW?
Connections with a handful of roster members. I think the trip where you, Corey Lee, and a couple of other people came down to UWA was what sparked that interest for me, but I wasn't in a position to really act on it at the time. Travel was really rare for me in 2022, but hop, skip, and jump to 2023, and actually Jackson Law, of all people, kind of pulled me into really wanting to come down here. I've been offered a handful of opportunities previously, but with school, couldn't do it. But now that I'm out of school and I really wanted to hone my craft and focus on wrestling, I hopped on SummerMania as soon as I could, and that brings us to what you see now.
Yeah, I think I've always prided myself on, when I'm bringing in a talent or booking a talent, especially one that travels or that wants to progress their wrestling career outside of XCW at a later point. I always tell them, hey, give me 2 years here guaranteed, and I will do everything that I can do to get you to the point that you want to get to, or to, I guess I'll just say it, make you fall in love with us to the point where this is your home. And I feel like you're already to that point, and I haven't even hit a few months. So for all the bullshit that goes on backstage, for all the egos, all the boo-hoos and the cries and everything that goes with the backstage politics and all that stuff, we have such an amazing, talented group of guys, and it's hard to walk away from this group because there are so many elements to go into what we do, and this is the only company, even professionally, that I've been a part of that requires an entire team to make it happen. Yeah. Usually, like your company or Jackson's company, or it's a one man show. Yeah. It takes one person to write it, to even to edit and all those things, and I will say XCW was the same way, but it's grown into something else, and now it requires an entire team to make one show happen, and it's just become a giant machine. But of course, going back to what you were saying, kudos to Jackson Law. He's opened up a lot of opportunity for XCW to work with outside talent, so that it's fresh, and that it gives other people like you the opportunity to come in and work for what some people call the gold standard of wrestling. So
absolutely.
Now, going back to what we were talking about earlier, you talked about SummerMania 18 being one of your favorite shows to watch, and how much you enjoyed that. Has there been a show since you've been here that you were just like, ugh, well, that one was a turd, and it just wasn't?
Like the entire show, or a match?
Or even going back on YouTube and watching some of our events, and you're just like, that one wasn't, that was stale.
See, catching up on 20 years of history is hard as hell.
Oh yeah. No, trust me.
Trust me, I've tried. So far, I haven't really seen anything that I can say I really dislike or hate.
Well, watch before 2011 and you'll find it.
Because the thing about me with wanting to work with other backyard wrestling shows or pro wrestling, amateur pro, is that I don't want to involve myself in something that sucks. If I can't sit through a certain time period of a certain match or segment, then the likelihood of me wanting to be a part of that show is slim. So
that begs the question, no offense, why do you continue to run your own? And I'm not saying that it's not necessarily a knock on your writing ability, because I'll be honest, when I have watched your product, which is very minimal, and that's also not a knock on you.
Right.
I've told Jackson this a million times, like, I don't watch a lot of product because I have so much of my own product going out so often that I don't have time to sit down and watch
every single thing of someone else's.
Anyone else's. I don't even have time to watch my own shit. There's stuff that's premiering. I'm like, oh, I need to watch this. I've never seen it before. Because we do have such a big team and things get edited by different people. So there are times where I don't even get to watch our own XCW product. So I don't get to watch anybody else's. It's kind of like in passing, like, oh, I have a couple extra minutes and I flip something on. So I mean, I've only been able to see like a few spots or a few matches or whatever. So I don't know about your writing skill or editing skill or anything like that. I'm just going based off of like
what
the action in the segment. And you have a very limited roster, a lot of masked characters, a lot of things like that. Your location is different than anything else that I've seen. And so it's very different. It's literally the upside down version of what XCW presents. And it's just, I don't want to necessarily say less than, because like I said, I don't have enough knowledge to come on here and publicly knock it, but I also feel like from what I've seen, it is completely the opposite of XCW. So back to that question then. So why do you continue to do that? You said, you're talking about things that suck, and I don't personally know, because I haven't seen enough to say that it sucks, but what I've seen so far isn't necessarily up to par versus what you do outside of your own company.
Right, no, and that's fair. So the show that Fletch here is referencing is my own show, YBW, Young Breakout Wrestling, founded in 2018. You can only be a wrestling fan for so long until you want to try it yourself. And I was already making YouTube videos when I was younger, not very good YouTube videos, of course not, but I created my own channel with my two cousins, Chase and Javian, and I attempted to make a wrestling show, and it's had its ups, it's had its downs, and I think a reason why I continue to do it and continue to write is because I like telling stories. I like putting something together, and it's just my passion for wrestling. And then when you find people that are close to you that also share that same passion to a degree, it's kind of hard to walk away from that. And I will say that YBW has gone through a lot of ups, a lot of downs, people in, people out. I think the most people I've had together consistently was back in 2020, during when COVID really broke out, and we had at least like 12 guys. But then things changed, people changed their ideals, but...
Well, that's one thing I would say that XCW has been extremely, I'm thankful for, is the fact that there hasn't been a lot of in and out in XCW. It's a very consistent roster. The roster numbers stay elevated for the most part, and so it's even easier to tell a story or to be involved in a story, especially when you're on the top of the card in a company where you can tell multiple different stories. You don't have a company that has 5, 6, 7, 8 guys where you're going to repeat those guys in a single calendar year.
Yeah.
Or you're going to have to tell longer stories throughout the duration of the year because you have less people on less talent people on a roster. XCW, you could not. Julian Floyd Jacobs and myself started 2022 in a rivalry Julian's been in XCW since 2014, and that's the first time we've ever touched. So, I mean, you look at that, and it's decades of not ever having anything together in a show, and that's just unheard of, really, for our craft. What we do, that's unheard of. So, so when you talk about storytelling, stuff like that, and that you not wanting to walk away from that, I think right now you're in a place where you're talking about telling a story, and help writing a story, because the inmates don't run the asylum here, but they definitely have a voice in what they're doing. So, and then not only that, but then you have the amount of people that you have to tell a story here. The storytelling's endless. So, so that's a big thing. Speaking of big things, in your opinion, to this point, what is your biggest moment that you've had in XCW?
Probably the match with Chris Jones, because I think Elimination Chained with Leon Lux, Hayden Vex, Corey Lee, Hunter Halkin, and Brady Branson. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I truly believe that was my shape up or ship out match, because that was my first opportunity with mainstream talent, like main event talent.
Yeah.
Hunter, who's on the verge of getting there, Leon, who could be there in a heartbeat, he's already there. And then you already have former champions in Corey, Brady.
And the crazy thing is that this is such a young roster, really, because a lot of those guys, you go back to XCW 2-3 years ago, they were not in that main event.
Right.
So it just shows you how quickly things can go in XCW. You could be, look at Jesse Justice as an example. The guy worked tags and worked less than spots for years and years and years, and then suddenly in 2021, boom, he's the XCW champion, and things progress very quickly here. So, yeah, I mean, having that kind of an opportunity for you, especially just a few months into your career, that's astronomical. That never happens. It really never happens. To get to that point, it takes some people like Jesse decades. And, I mean, you're jumping in, head first into all of these things. So with that being said, we'll make this one a two-parter since you have so much history outside of XCW. First, what was the biggest turning point in your career? Maybe it is XCW. And what is your biggest turning point for your career in XCW?
I think for XCW, just being involved, like there's no specific thing that I can name, like it's just one crazy thing to be a part of, like you said, like it's very special, and I don't believe that a lot of shows out there, whether you're YouTube, Amateur Pro, Backyard, or whatever, have the kind of things that we have here, and just being a part of that is revolutionary in its own right. Outside, biggest turning point, I'd have to say heading down to Tennessee for the first time after not being able to travel as much as I would like, because Tennessee was the first time I
traveled out of your comfort zone.
Yes, went out of the state of Pennsylvania, sat in the car for 13 hours, and then did a bunch of stuff for UWA, BYCW, CBW at the time, and it was fun.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not much of a travel guy. I have made some travel over the last year or two to different places, or attempted to when people weren't sick. Pussy. So I get it. It's not really my thing, but to be able to venture out and be able to work with new people and to do those things, I could definitely see being a turning point in a career. With wrestling comes the risk of injury, of course.
Yeah.
So to this point, what is the worst injury you sustained while performing?
I have never gotten injured at all during wrestling.
Boy, knock on that wood right there.
No, seriously, I've been doing this since January 22nd of 2018, and I've never gotten legitimately injured. I have for a storyline maybe in my show, but I've never sustained an injury within wrestling or outside of it.
I do one punch spot and take a half-ass bump, and I'm dying today. So,
God love you.
Yeah, well, lucky you're young. So on the flip side of that, of course, you are involved with all these shows. You get to witness a lot of things as well. So what is the worst injury you've witnessed being at one of these shows?
Probably the parking lot brawl with Jackson Law and Evan Phoenix, and Law getting dumped on his head. That was pretty brutal.
I don't know. To me, the most brutal part was watching Evan Phoenix trying to catch his breath. But no, in all seriousness, no. Yeah, like some of these matches in XCW can get brutal. I mean,
Yeah.
I've seen some spots in ladder matches and even elimination chain. I mean, those guys are getting Irish whipped into a ring post, not turnbuckles.
Yeah.
But a legit ring post. I've seen some sick shit. I'll tell you that. And half of it I've done. Ladder to my face, whatever. So I'll make this one a two-parter. I probably know the answer to the actual question that's being asked. But has there ever been a time that you wanted to quit XCW, or on the flip side, wrestling in general?
With XCW, no. I can't say there's a time where I've wanted to quit. At least this early in, I don't really have a reason to want to leave.
Right.
Because with XCW, I want to push myself to do more and accomplish more, and this isn't a place where I feel like, well, it's not doing me any good.
Well, a lot of and Jackson and I have talked about this. Like, I always make I always say the thing of, it's not about how many places you can work. It's about how much of an impact you can make in one. And there's guys like you and him and Delta and all these guys that just walk in the door of wherever they want, and they're like, here's our title. And that doesn't happen here because there's so many guys to get through. There's so many things that you can do prior to being a champion that you have to work harder for, and you have to work longer. You're not handed anything here. And that's a different dynamic than working a company that has 5, 6, 7, 8, whatever guys that, they're like, oh, you're a big fish in a small pond. Let's give them the title. And that doesn't happen here. So it's harder to make an impact here versus other places. So
yeah.
So what about outside of here?
Outside of here.
Ever been a time that you wanted to quit outside, like before you came to XCW?
There have been a couple of times against my will where I couldn't wrestle because my mom and my grandmother and a handful of family members did not want me doing this, but yet they forced me to do amateur wrestling, like stuff on the mat, which is kind of within the same dynamic of getting hurt. I don't understand the difference, still don't. But there was a rough time for me back in, I'd say through December 2022 through April 2023, where I was just out of it, like in school, with family. Some of it was friend stuff, some of it was relationship stuff, and I just did not have a passion to do wrestling or much of anything until I came up here, got to work my first XCW match with Corey Lee, and I got to do some stuff in CBW, and I'm like, nah, you can still do this.
Kind of lit in the fire.
Yeah.
So obviously, you've worked all these companies, so even more so than other people that I've had on the show, You've seen so many different performers and their multiple of characters. You yourself work multiple characters, especially in companies that have a less than roster. And I don't mean like talent-wise, I mean like the scale of a roster.
Yeah.
So in your opinion, what is the worst gimmick that you've witnessed through the years?
Worst gimmick, oh my god.
I mean, you did work with a fun-loving, dancing, candy-eating lucha, so...
I was wondering where you go with that.
I mean, well, here we have Jeff Buster, Grim Reaper, so...
Okay, but Jeff Buster and Grim Reaper are actually great ideas.
So I've been told.
Oh my god.
Jeff Buster currently has swine flu, so...
Really?
I guess.
I guess. Worst gimmick. I don't watch much of them. Well, there's two actually. First one is this show called WCE. Show up in Wisconsin where the same people are champions all the goddamn time. I think that's fucking stupid.
Craven Rage. You okay? Continue.
Yeah. TBW who can't think of an original gimmick to save their life.
Okay, Gage Flair. Well, let's continue.
They're not shows that I've worked for, and I don't ever plan on working for them. You won't catch me dead.
Well, that's fair. I just mean worst gimmick that you've witnessed. So
probably the Gage Flair crap.
Okay. Flip side of that, what's the best gimmick you think you've seen? I mean, because I obviously, like I said, I don't know about a lot of outside talent of XCW, but like, there's some deep-rooted storytelling in people's characters here in XCW that haven't even been revealed yet.
Yeah.
Hunter Halkin being one of those. There's more elements to his character that we haven't shown. So, in your opinion, what's the best gimmick that you've seen?
I really like the Real One's gimmick.
I always thought you were going to say Jeff Buster again.
No.
Bye-bye. No, I'm just kidding.
No, but I like the Real One's gimmick.
Yeah. So, obviously you've had hundreds and hundreds of matches all over the world. Is there anything that you do to prepare for a match? Like, what do you do to get ready for entering competition?
Sometimes I'll listen to some music. I don't have a personal playlist, but I'll just play something on YouTube if I have my phone on me.
How can you hear in XCW's building?
You can't.
Okay, I'm just saying, like,
you cannot.
Can't hear jack shit in there. Between the crowd, the music, and the bumps, it's insane in there. But
I'll also stretch here and there, like just get all loosened up.
Yeah. So the next question plays into: do you have any pre-match rituals? So.
Not particularly. I will say that I do pace back and forth, and I'm just in my head thinking about maybe certain spots or thinking in general just about where I'm at, and that just helps me get in the zone a bit more. Yeah,
I feel like that's a pretty common answer. You know, people kind of take themselves out of their normal everyday life, and they find a way to psych themselves out. You have to go out and you have to play a character, and you have to put your body through things it's not supposed to go to. So, yeah, that's a common answer. I'm just glad that no one's ever said that they masturbated. So, part of wrestling is taking the licks. You know, there's times where you're working a guy and you get punched right in the face, or you may really get kicked. One thing that everybody seems to hate just commonly are chops. Who has given you the absolute worst chop?
Hayden
Vex. All right.
Oh my god. He came out of Elimination Chamber like a rocket. Motherfucker was ready, and he's just like, well, later. Chops the fuck out of me. I'm like heaving back a little bit, trying to maintain balance, and I'm like, yeah, fuck no, I'm done.
So, you know, Hayden, one thing that he's really known for is his finishing move. Death by Vex. It comes out of nowhere. It hypes people up. It looks sick as shit.
Yeah.
So what, in your opinion, is the best finishing move in XCW?
Leon Lux's leap of faith.
Okay.
It's not the craziest thing he's ever done. I mean, he backflipped off a fucking basketball hoop.
That's true. But I can see why the amount of air that guy can get is insane.
It's
so this is kind of fun coming off of your answer being Leon Lux. Which pro wrestler has influenced you the most?
Seth Rollins. Outside of XCW, my moveset is very Seth Rollins-like. I've been using a curb stomp or a blackout or peace of mind. I don't know if anyone's gonna get that one. I've used that almost everywhere else. Hunter Halpin kind of beat me to it using it here. But yeah, I've been using that since I think 2019. So.
Yeah, and I think Seth in this day and age is a very common answer. Of course, older school wrestlers, Jeff Hardy or an RVD. It seems like a lot of guys want to gravitate towards like the high flying style guys. I base a lot of my stuff off of like Bubba Ray Dudley. I have a Kevin Owens kind of style at times. And then I also do like a fast paced big guy style like a Vader. So I watched a lot of their stuff, to kind of own my craft. But I know a lot of guys go for the higher fly guys, which isn't necessarily the best decision for your body.
Yeah.
Seth Rollins has a great balance, though, I think, of being able to be technical and be high flying. So that's really cool. And Seth is definitely an innovator. I mean, especially when you put him in big match situations, different concept matches. And speaking of that, what's your favorite concept match?
Favorite concept? You mean like high flyer against high flyer?
No, I mean match concept. Cage, ladders, gimmicky stuff.
I think it kind of depends with the story, per se. I guess a regular one-on-one most of the time, because not every match needs weapons or tables to, be great.
Yeah, you can tell a story without the gimmicky stuff. I agree.
Yeah.
But if you are in a concept match and there's weapons involved, what would you say was the worst weapon shot you've ever received?
Christ. So I have, outside of XCW, I have been hit with light tubes, but shockingly, that is not the worst pain I've ever experienced.
Tubes are easy.
Getting whipped with a leather belt.
You're gonna hate it here.
Yeah, I just signed my death sentence right there. Yeah, that had to be the worst pain I've ever experienced, probably.
Just wait until you get thrown into a Canadian lumberjack match. Good times. Where do you see your XCW career 6 months from now? So we'll be June. We're looking at Extreme King going into SummerMania season.
Part of me wants to say winning Extreme King and taking the XCW World Championship, but I have a bit more realistic views than that. I do see myself working with the talent that I am working with now to build myself up.
Okay.
Whether that means a championship or not, because titles aren't everything in the grand scheme of wrestling. They're not. And this comes from someone that's won at least 50. But
again, context here. He works for companies that only have a few people,
right.
So they get handed titles. Or there's me, it's like, oh, well, I have 9 world titles, but it took me
9 world titles,
22 years.
7 international championships. Is it 7 or 8?
9.
9.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
I'm Mr. International, for sure. So, obviously, we talked about a little bit earlier in the show about your fast rise here in XCW.
Yes.
Who, in your opinion, that you've seen over the years, is the fastest rising star in XCW?
Eric Mason.
Good answer.
Oh, my God. Yeah, he's just had one hell of a year, I believe.
I agree. Yeah, 100%. I agree. So obviously, in wrestling, one of the big things that you got to do is come up with a name for your character. You're obviously not going to come out with your... some people do come out with their real names, but most of the time, you're looking for a stage name.
Yes.
So who has your favorite name in XCW?
God. Favorite name? This one's hard. This one's really, really hard. Because I think that everyone's unique in their own way, and to just pick one specific name above everyone else is kind of pretty difficult. I think Jackson Law's name is interesting, because when I met him personally, he does not look like a Jackson.
Really? I think he does.
I mean, he looks like a jackass, but that's a different conversation.
Okay.
Man. This one's hard. This one's really hard. I'd have to say Venom.
I'm a sucker for one-word names, too, so...
Yeah.
I don't know. I've always...
Jacoby.
If it makes sense,
Fletch.
I like it.
Yeah.
If it makes sense. You know, we've had Corruptions and Crisis and Venoms and Void and Hazard. So there's been a lot of those. Cynical.
Carnage.
Name I'm most proud of naming is Jason Arcane. I feel like a lot of that name stands out to a lot of people. It's very unique. You never hear of a wrestler with the name Arcane, so it's pretty unique.
Yeah. All
right, well, we're going to take a short commercial break. When we come back, I've got another dozen and a half questions for you. So we'll be right back here.
Almost anywhere I went, I pretended to be unaffected by the stupid people questioning me. But in reality, I did it all intentionally. It made you think I give in to the pressure and leave. It made you think I give in to depression and bleed. I make an enemy of anybody threatening me, and I'm the one who determines who I am destined to be. When did I fall flat? Can't look at you now. Now you're falling dead. And when it hits the ground, can't look at you now. Now you'll never win. This is my legacy. Life or death to me. It's like the air I breathe, and you can suffocate me now. You can't burn my empire, but you still try. No. You can play God, but you can't kill my legacy. It's life or death to me. You said that I'd be nothing. How does it feel that I function? You can't kill me no matter how hard you try. So turn around if you want to get out alive. You said I'd never make it, but look at me now. Just set the fuck up. You can't stop me, you already had to try. Now get it back in the line. Right now. You'll never break me down. You'll never break me. This is my legacy. Life or death to me. It's like the air I breathe, and you can suffocate me now. You can't burn my empire, but you still try. No. You can play God, but you can't kill my legacy. It's life or death to me.
And we're back here on Freetime Interview. I am Fletch alongside Aaron Blaze. Yes, and we're going to continue to run down all these questions, get his perception, his opinion on some of the most controversial topics that you can think of, controversial questions here on Freetime Interview. This one you may not have a good answer to because you, being so new, you probably aren't aware of everyone who is a part of the esteemed class.
Yeah.
But who do you think should be in the XCW Hall of Fame that is not yet? And I mean, you could go with newer talent if you want, since you don't know a lot of the older talent that is inducted.
Well, first off, Leon Lux. I think he should be in the Hall of Fame.
That's fair. Leon is one of those talents that has been in XCW for years and years and years. Because I feel like once you're in XCW, for the most part, everybody who comes through XCW, you become part of the family.
Yeah.
Whether you leave on good terms, bad terms. Hazard and I don't even speak anymore, but he's still very much a part of the XCW family and always will be. It's just ingrained in who we are at this point. So Leon Lux definitely has had a long-standing XCW career and is not a part of the Hall of Fame. So I'm with you on that one. That's a really good one. So obviously, I've seen a lot of your work inside and outside of XCW, and I've seen that you've come up with a lot of different theme songs. What is your theme song that just pumped you up the most, that you've enjoyed coming out to the most?
Rain When I Die by Alice in Chains. Because there's a deeper meaning behind that song for me.
It's too slow to me, but...
maybe. I speed it up, though.
Meh.
Meh. But, I started first using that song in March of 2021, I believe. And it was on the run of my 6th world title win in my own company. It was meant to be a heel theme, and it fit the character at the time, but the reason I used it was because around the pandemic, 3-4 years ago, depending on when this comes out, is when my grandfather passed away, and he was the closest thing, aside from you, to a father figure that I've ever gotten in my entire life. And I remember my mom, myself, and one of her old friends at the time, I think both of her friends were there though, her very close friends, and we were talking on the porch about him, and the sun was out, and it was raining, and it was a couple hours after we figured out that he died. And my mom kind of hooked me on Alice in Chains with car rides, some with and some without my grandfather, for wrestling or going out to eat or just being together as a family after he moved in with us. And since then, that has been the closest song to my heart.
I agree with you. It's a slower, grungier song, so it definitely is going to fit better with a heel persona than a babyface persona.
Yes.
And obviously, that wouldn't work for XCW for the fact that we have somebody else coming out to the same band already, and then as well as you working as a babyface in XCW currently rather than a heel. So I could see where you definitely feel like that song is better fitting for a heel than for a babyface, but. In the same breath of that, which do you prefer, babyface or heel?
I'm normally better at playing a heel, and I don't.
But being a heel is easier to do, in my opinion.
Yeah, working babyface, most of the time it is hard. I will say, like, starting here as a babyface was a whole new realm for me, because any other time I try to play a babyface, it does not work. But when I do it here, I really feel that it works for me for some reason, and I don't know why.
So a good friend of mine, obviously everybody watching here on XC Wrestling 1 on YouTube is familiar with this name. A good old buddy of mine by the name of James Cerebral says that this thing right here in front of us is the eye that never blinks. So that begs the question, were you ever camera shy? To this day, James Cerebral is still camera shy. So
I feel like I am to an accord. It's always when things are planned that I'm kind of iffy, but when it's like a all of a sudden thing, I normally just flow with it. Like Summer Mania 18, I don't know how many people were aware of this. The interview I did with JJ was not planned. It was all based on a miscommunication.
And that's gonna happen a lot. Even if it is planned, there's gonna be a lot of things where some of our announcers are gonna try to catch you off guard with things. So
yeah.
So it's probably good to be on your toes early.
Yeah. But in school, when I was forced to do projects and all this other presenting shit, my anxiety just couldn't handle it. But with wrestling, I will say it's a bit hard for me a little bit, but it's easier for me.
I wouldn't say that
makes sense.
I wouldn't say that I'm egotistical and I'm just like, hey, but like the camera never bothers me. I'm a camera hog. I don't care. But it's different for everybody. I already know the answer to the next question on if you had experience prior to your tenure here in XCW. But let's just go back into the vault. What was your first experience with wrestling?
YBW was my first experience. My first experience in doing it, I should say, at the level I am doing it. Because without it, I wouldn't have gotten the connections I have or the opportunities that I've been given, and even stuff in the future for years to come, or that is coming in the next few weeks or months.
Who were you trained by before your wrestling career began? Or if a lot of guys that come from a backyard standpoint like you have were self-trained. So if you are self-trained per se,
I am.
Then give me who you're trained by upon your XCW tenure.
Self-trained. I never really got an opportunity to go to a school or have much of a consistent schedule to where I could like hone my craft with more experienced people. XCW was the closest thing I've ever gotten to.
Who's been your training here in XCW?
I think a bit of everybody that I've worked with. You, my first match with Void, Jones for certain, Elimination Chained, the 8-man tag that happened at Hit the Lights, just the different styles and all of these veterans, and even new people like Hunter Halkin, who I got to work with twice, I believe.
Standout star for sure.
Yeah.
So obviously I know that you're a part of a team outside of XCW alongside Captain Law. But there are so many teams that's come in and out of XCW, different stables, different teams throughout the years. Is there a particular team or stable in XCW that was your absolute favorite?
And Starstruck Entertainment.
I agree. One of the best teams XCW.
I looked at a lot of the old entrance videos or trials. I don't know which name you prefer in that.
Depends on the day.
Depends on the day. But the theme and the production that went into it, I recall at least the second or third trip I took here, and on the way back through Greyhound, I kept playing Starstruck's theme over and over and over. It's such a goddamn good song for two really good guys.
So, I know that you're just really getting your feet wet in XCW, and you're really just now starting to, learn about the people on the roster, or, really get to know the people on the roster. But is there anybody on XCW's roster that you personally just do not like?
There's actually a few.
Okay.
Jaden Tucker, not particularly a fan. Not going to get into the reasons why. Just trying to be as professional as I can. And pardon me for saying this, but I think DJ is a bitch. Not a big fan of him at all. So.
Okay. Well, that's your opinion. Yep. So, obviously XCW, I know a lot of places that you go to work. It's about what you're doing in the ring all the time. XCW prides itself on being able to storytell along with what you do in the ring. Is there a particular storyline that you've seen in XCW that stands out to you as one of your favorites?
The stuff with EBW, I think, it's very, very interesting. It's very unique. And I'm not even just saying that because I'm technically a part of it, but just 2 decades in the making. And I think, even though I've seen snippets of the last takeover, I think this current one's better than what was happening in 2014.
Yeah, I mean, with the fact that there's a ring and the talent has gotten better than the previous version, yeah, I could see that.
Yeah.
I mean, the original XCW versus EBW story 10 years ago was one of the best rivalries in company history, and that's one of the reasons why it's been rehashed and brought back. So, yeah, to a lot of people, that's the best rivalry in XCW history. But what, in your opinion, is the best rivalry in XCW that you've seen? And there was a lot in 2023 for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think the stuff with Hunter Halkin and Brogan O'Shea.
Okay.
The match they had at SummerMania 18 was nuts.
Mm-hmm. That it was. Yeah, and especially to be able to perform that style of match in front of that big of a crowd in that building, it was, everything about it was magical. And for us to be able to have the opportunity to make those memories, there has been phenomenal. And that, also brings up, what is your favorite XCW location?
I would have to say like the Mainstay Arena, just because when I come here, I'm literally right by it. But yeah, the yard that we wrestle most of the time in has the most history and the most memories. And just wrestling there, I always get this great feeling, especially when some of us are in the back and I look up at the picture of Kurt Acid. I think it's just beautiful, and it really showcases the family that you talk about often within this company. Yeah,
I mean, guys like Kurt Acid really create a special legacy in XCW, and I think every single day that he was a part of XCW and he brought what he brought to XCW and created the legacy that he has. Legacy is a big thing here in XCW. Everybody wants to try to create one. What do you think your legacy will be when you, at some point in your career, leave either wrestling behind or XCW behind?
That I was the first traveled guy that you brought in that did not let you down. That has always been my biggest thing, and I'm not going to count Jackson Law.
Okay.
Because he doesn't count in that. But for me, traveling the distance that I travel, and for doing it at this young of an age, seeing all these other guys who, in my opinion, have had it man-made to make the time to come here and to work with the names that they've worked with, and they still shit the bed in the way. I came here to stand out and be different, to break out, pun not intended, and to create one hell of a legacy.
What kind of legacy do you think XCW itself is going to leave behind as a whole?
I believe XCW is one of the top YouTube wrestling promotions out there, with the talent we have, the production we have, alongside other great shows like ESW Shockwave is a great example of high quality production.
I like ESW, but I don't think that their production level is anywhere close to ours. But their wrestling ability is definitely on par.
Oh yeah, absolutely. that's one of the shows that inspired me to really go through with this too.
What other legacies do you think XCW is going to leave behind? Because I feel like after 20 years, XCW already has a legacy that I don't even know about. So, I mean, I have people coming to me from, IMF or Tom Bryce from Sports Wire Radio comes to me and tells me what he thinks of the brand. And I know that rumor has it that it's, he has his flavors of the month. But, I mean, we've been in a working relationship 6-8 months and he's still singing our praises. So I feel like XCW already has a bit of a legacy. So,
absolutely. Because not many shows even make it to 10 years, let alone 20 plus on the verge of 21.
Yeah, and I mean the legacy of XCW. I have a wife and a child because of XCW. I mean, and I have a
which
home.
Is crazy to think.
Yeah, it's true, and so it's affected everyone's life differently. But how has XCW so far impacted your life, other than spending a shit ton of money to travel?
It's really helped me find myself this year because, like I said earlier, this year has been rough for me, and it being a part of XCW, this family, and getting to match up well with people, not just wrestling wise, but just how people are when the camera is off. And the times we go out to eat and hang out and we talk about whatever and bullshit.
Probably gonna do it after this. I'm starving.
Yeah, it's just, I've never been a part of something this, it's like a dream come true for me because I've always tried.
There's a lot of close people in this company. A lot of people that stay closely connected. It's different than like I'm just going to use UWA as the example because that was the other company that I traveled to, but you don't feel a close-knit connection in that locker room between those guys as you do in XCW, where XCW, there's not a single person in XCW that hates Void. Like, there's just not. Like, Void is everyone's best friend. And everybody loves Eric Mason. Everybody loves Hunter Halkin. Everybody loves all these people and loves to be around them. You could almost point to anybody. Oh yeah, Void. He's my best friend.
Yeah.
There's Brogan O'Shea, man. I consider him one of my best friends, and that's just the close knit family connection that this company has, and you don't get that in any locker room any other place that I've seen so far.
Right. Which builds into the legacy because not many shows will have those tight connections, and it's just either one-offs or just full-on business, and friendships that are just limited.
Yeah, so we talk about friends, we talk about the impact that it's been on your life. Earlier you talked about how XW's impacted your career professionally, but what is the best thing to come out of XCW for you on a personal level? And not the wrestling side of it, but for you personally.
So ever since I started doing this wrestling stuff, I have always been picked on in school, which I assume that most people have when doing this, because people are like, oh, it's fake, oh, it's bullshit, blah, 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 blah. And then I even have my family members look at me like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, this isn't going to get you anywhere, blah, 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 blah. You're wasting your time. Part of the reason I do this is to prove people wrong, because I am a firm believer of if you really set your mind to something, you can do it. And not many people had much faith in me that I would even get gear. I got gear. Not many people had faith in me that I would get somewhere on my channel, and I did. Had faith in me traveling, and here I am. And putting on great matches with people like Chris Jones, Miano Diaz, Corey Lee, everybody. It just showcases that I'm not doing this all for nothing. I am living my dream. I'm finding my happiness, and I'm showcasing that I am good at something.
Yeah, you've definitely done a lot in a short amount of time. You're obviously going to achieve pretty big things as long as you continue to commit to being a part of this roster. And so that brings me to, what's your biggest achievement in XCW? And we'll just go ahead and throw in your biggest achievement outside of XCW.
All right. Well, we can still include that because I think my biggest achievement so far in XCW is being a part of the show and getting a lot of people behind me, whether it's members of the roster or the crowd at SummerMania. That will always be an infamous moment that I will forever carry with me. Outside of XCW, I will say winning the CBW Critical Championship. That was my first World Championship in a while that I've won.
Or one that wasn't self-awarded. No pun intended.
Yeah, I mean, you're not wrong. I mean, it is what it is. And the story that followed that was also great. It was one of the best times of my life, and not just for me, but I do a lot of what I do to help out other people and help out the channel, help out the stars. And after I became champion, it did get the channel and a handful of people interested. So
Yeah.
did my job.
So earlier we talked about the worst gimmicks that you've seen, the best gimmicks that you've seen.
Yeah.
What about you? Where did you come up with the name Aaron Blaze and your character?
So my real name is Eamon.
Which I think is awesome. Just saying.
A-A-M-E-N. I never liked my real name, and it wasn't even because of my family or anything like that. It was just so many people in school would butcher it on purpose, and teachers would always fuck it up, and then I get all these questions about it, and it just pestered me.
I like it much better than Aaron Blaze, just saying.
Damn. But I came up with Aaron because I still liked the idea of having two A's. I don't know why. So I shifted from Eamon to Aaron. And for a gimmick, I wanted something with fire. I don't know why. But then I came up with Aaron Blaze, and I just rolled with it. Well,
upon your XW debut, we wanted to call you Eamon Arson, which I fucking love.
Yeah. Who knows, man? But
comment below. Which name do you guys like better?
I'll get repackaged and shit.
Maybe.
Well, that means you'll have to change this shirt, which you can get at XCW.
That's an easy fix.
But still. XCW shop zone.
All right. Here's the big one. This is the one that finalizes everything on every Freetime interview in XCW history.
Is this the last question?
This is the last one.
Already?
This is the big one.
All right.
What do you say to people who say that wrestling is fake?
That they're dumbasses. It's my biggest pet peeve. It's one of those things I truly believe you cannot judge unless you are going to take the time to do it yourself. Because, yeah, a lot of things are choreographed, but that is for safety reasons. It's to tell a good story. It's to make sure that people are invested in what you are doing. And I'm sorry, but I can't fake fucking getting my head spiked on a power bomb. I can't fake getting, chopped. I can't fake getting slammed through a goddamn table. You can't fake every single solitary thing, or getting hit with glass, or getting slammed on thumbtacks, or whatever. So for people to say that every single aspect is fake, it's bullshit.
Yeah, and part of that is, when you finally achieve something, even if it's predetermined, like, hey, you're going to go out here tomorrow and you're going to be ACT for the XW title.
I wish.
That's an achievement that, a company has to believe in you to put you in that type of position, especially in a stacked roster like we have.
Yeah.
So, when people talk about is it real or is it fake, the emotion and the hard work that goes into getting to a spot like that is real.
It's real.
And I think there's they're just like, oh, you fake punch. Okay.
And there's times when we don't.
But I've taken bumps on some of the worst things possible. Sidewalks, ladders, chairs, light tubes, totes, everything. I've been kicked in the face with laptops, and there's no way you're going to fake taking a laptop to the face. I mean, it cut my friggin' eyeball. So, like,
Brady kicking me in the nuts while I had fucking Corey in a submission.
It's just...
That was fun.
It is
Thanks, Brady.
Predetermined. You know, the outcomes are laid out ahead of time, and we are entertainers, so writing out something that make the fans invested and entertained is definitely predetermined, but I wouldn't say that that's fake.
Right.
Predetermined and fake to me are not the same. So, you know, I think that there are a lot of sports, a lot of things out there that are predetermined or, you know, set a certain way to maybe, you know, like, I don't know if NFL is necessarily fake or rigged or anything like that, but I definitely think that they do things in a certain way that's going to best promote something that they have in terms of, like, their sponsorships and stuff like that. I think a lot of that stuff plays in. I do. You know, you're going to put Aaron Rodgers as the main guy of your insurance company. You're going to make sure that Aaron Rodgers just got a good season. You know, you don't want a guy that's going out there with a 2-12 record and he's like the face of your Campbell soup. You want Patrick Mahomes, who's 13-3, to be that guy, not you know. So I think that there are elements to everything in life, and especially sports, that really plays into that notion of, you know, it's predetermined, or there's a rhyme and reason for everything that happens. Yeah. So, and wrestling is no different than anything
Method
else.
to the madness. That's
people say, "Oh, UFC's real," and they're just considered sports entertainment as well. They had to sign a sports entertainment agreement to run MSG. So.
Agree to disagree.
Yeah. So, but it was a pleasure having you on the show.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
I love doing this show, getting the opinions of XCW stars. We're going to have plenty more this season. Stay tuned. More episodes to come here on Freetime Interview. But from Aaron Blaze, I am Fletch. Thank you for joining us, and we will see you next time here on XCW Freetime Interview. Thank you.